He's very gentle.
Was it?
We got a new guy started with us. His name's Pavel.
Yeah.
He's from Slovakia. He's like really humble and he's just full of smiles and he's a lovely guy.
Since he was 6.
Wrestled since he was 6, morning and night, every day of his life. And
Olympic team coach?
Honestly, a fucking monster.
Recruited
He's
to
very
assist.
strong.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very strong. And yeah, like you could feel when he's got you that he could just pick you up and chuck you on the ground. And he did like was it a fireman throw? Fireman throw.
Under.
So I was there and then 1 second everything was upside down and then all of a sudden I was on my back. But
Someone sent me screenshots of like the sequence of you flying through the air. And the funniest shit is that the whole time Pavel's down like spinning you, he's smiling. He never stops smiling. It's so good.
So
Big smile.
oh man. But even when he like dropped me, I could feel like if he just put some weight into it, my back probably would have snapped.
But he was gentle.
He was very gentle.
He was gentle. Oh,
Yeah.
that's bad. Is he coaching you now or is he just rolling?
Yeah, I hope so.
That he's on
still
we're trialing it and we're trying to find a
talking about
space
it.
for it and get everyone excited about it.
Fuck yeah. Oh my God. Like wrestling, I'm trying to get my head around wrestling concepts because it's such a big part of Nogi. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where's the guest cup?
Can I not have the gold cup?
You can have whichever one you want, but there is a guest cup.
Guest cup's there.
And what does the guest?
It's a special guest cup.
Well, I'm down for the golden. That's the Midas cup.
You can have the gold cup if you want the gold cup.
Can I have the? Can I? Or
Yeah,
have I
of course
ruined-
you can.
Okay. Have I ruined the flow because I haven't changed?
Well,
my
it just
stuff?
depends on whether Paul's capable of detaching from
Thank
it.
you. Is that normally?
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was only joking. I was
But
joking.
you did look at me as that. Well, that's definitely not my cup.
It's normally heaps funnier because we mostly have guys on
Yeah,
the show.
exactly. I know. It's just that's amazing.
Hey, we're recording. We've been on for a couple of minutes, just so you guys know. So don't say
Sorry.
anything stupid. Guys, welcome to episode 77 of Jungle Brothers podcast. Couple things before we kick off. We're drinking the Panavore coffee today. Thanks, Tree. You're a legend. If you haven't been to their cafe, it's in Pagewood. Hit it up. Internship. Thanks, Paulie. Filling up my coffee cup.
Thanks,
Our
Tree.
internship kicks off on the 22nd of October. If you're interested in that, come at us. junglebrothers.com if you want more info. And we're hosting a Persian yoga workshop on the 14th of November. Coolest thing about it, it's got
Persian
nothing to do
yoga?
with yoga as you know it. It's actually, that's a slide dig at yoga, which, let's
That's
get to
okay.
that.
We're down for that.
It's a strength and conditioning system that's been used traditionally in Persia, now called Iran, to prepare warriors for battle. And they now use it for their wrestlers. And so it's all around these few key implements that they use. And the fella Kashi is going to come and introduce us to that. So it's like a 3-hour introduction workshop to this art of Persian yoga.
Very cool. Is that mace stuff?
Meal. They call it a meal.
Oh, a meal, but it's
But
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
we've
like that.
we've turned them into I think a mace is one of the fitness
Things.
implements we made in the West, and also the club
Metal
bell.
bat, the club.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the bell. Oh, yep, the mace.
bell.
Yeah, yep.
yeah. But guys, it's Joey, Paul, T in the house, and we've got a friend of ours, Shona Vertue, with us.
What up?
Thanks for joining, man.
Thanks for having me.
Not your first time at Jungle Brothers.
Not my first rodeo.
But you haven't been here for a while. Yeah, first time you've seen the dojo upstairs.
Yeah, it's so sick. For anyone listening, if you can make it down, you definitely need to. It is badass. Seriously, because I came out here last time, I thought it was pretty badass. And then to come here this time to see the mezzanine built and that kind of cagey thing you got going on.
That's not
So
your
epic.
personality, Joe.
Well, it's not my personality.
Cagey thing.
How do you mean?
No, I was a joke.
Oh.
But I was just trying to be funny. But I take that as a compliment because I had a big role in building that mezzanine.
It was
you?
essentially T's
Big
project.
Was
Yeah.
it?
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
the
it
white
was.
belt decided to put the
The white belt
jiu-jitsu-
built the
Yes.
jiu-jitsu mezzanine.
I can
And I still didn't get a
Fine and
fucking blue
hot.
belt for it. I asked. I'm getting told that
You're
that's
not
the
allowed
reason
to
why I
ask.
don't get it.
Yeah.
It's because I keep asking for it.
Exactly.
I can just wear one day. Fuck it.
See if someone takes it off you. I guess that's a good way to go
Oh,
about
can't
it.
take it off me then. Can't take it. I'll just run around the gym real fast and dodge people. Fuck it.
Just start throwing kicks and punches. I had that with an old training partner. He told the coach he wanted his, and I won't mention names. He told the coach, "I'm ready for black belt," and the coach was like, "Well," and he was ready for, you would consider him ready for black belt, and then the coach said, "Well, one of our biggest rivals, who's a black belt, is competing in a couple of weeks. I'll give you a black belt, but you have to beat him." And he was like, all right.
Wow.
And he went to the comp and he lost. But he never had the black belt taken off him. So it was...
Oh, he gave it to him anyway.
Yeah. But I couldn't imagine a shittier way to receive your black belt. I was like, that was so ugly. And then it was like, we came into the gym and he's still wearing romantic. It. It's like, are you a black belt now? And he's like, yeah. It was, it was awful.
That sucks.
No one forecasted worst case scenario in that situation, I think.
You have to believe, don't you?
I think it was just a disrespect of the process, of that ceremony, which is like, you'll only ever get the black belt once. Like, so it should be a nice moment. Like getting any belt.
So true.
You got a blue belt recently.
Yep.
I'm sure it was quite an impactful event.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was exciting. I'd still feel very white belt. I'm not going to lie.
And she's calling out any of the blues or purples out there that want a piece, come get some.
Come get it. In 6 months.
No, it's what it's like though. You always feel a little bit underqualified when you get it.
100%.
But it was people there.
It's been 10 fucking years, bro.
It's been 83.
When I get it, I'm going to say it's about time. And there's going to be a big party.
Hopefully Paul's listening. Shona.
Yes.
Can you give us a little background on you?
You're not going to make me do the background thing.
Fuck yeah, we're going to make you do a background. I mean, you keep it as brief as you want.
Okay.
How did you get here today? How'd you end up here with us on the show?
You're going to make me talk about the RAV?
No, you don't have to talk about the wheels. Just like how did it come to be that you're on our podcast today?
How did it come to be? I actually don't know how it came to be. I came here a couple of years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Almost.
Yeah, I guess.
It's something like that. Came here 2 years ago. I don't even remember how I heard about you.
All I know is you were told, our friend Danny Clayton,
Danny
who trained
Clayton,
with us, told us about you a long time ago.
Danny.
It was like, you guys got to connect with this girl, Shona. I know she's such a legend. She's super in line with what you guys are doing. And I think we're at the time, we're like, yeah. Like everyone, like we get that from people. They'll be like, you got to check out this mate of mine. He's totally in line with you guys. And then they'll send me a video. This is his Instagram. And he'll be doing like shitty calisthenics or like some kind of, and we're like, not really.
Okay.
But
is that what happened when you saw my Instagram?
It wasn't at all. And we didn't actually.
Okay, just for anyone listening, Joe just fucking did a micro expression with this like little smirk. And I was like, okay, nah. You definitely eye rolled when Danny sent you.
Totally. You were like, okay, another friend that's into whatever we're into. But in truth, we didn't actually ever connect. From what I can remember was the first time was when you came to do the workshop here.
Yeah, and it was a sick workshop and I was like, okay, this is amazing. And then after the workshop, I stayed for some jiu-jitsu, or I came another day to do jiu-jitsu. I think it was a Thursday night I came and rolled and I was scared shitless. But that was sort of very much the beginning of my jiu-jitsu journey, and I just loved everything that you guys are about, combining strength and mobility and jiu-jitsu, and it was right up my Straza.
Nice. It's the German route.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that one to my repertoire.
When Paul and I were first going to Germany, Paul was using Google Maps to like figure out like hostels and stuff. We went to Germany for the World Cup.
What's he going to say here?
When we were like,
right. Like, what happens in Germany stays in
Germany. And Paul was referring to these streets, and he's like, oh, so there's this street at so-and-so Straub. And we were like, Straub, oh yeah, Deusen Straub and Meissen Straub. Because when the Strasse is written in German, it looks like a B.
Yeah. Straub.
The listeners don't know that, Joe.
We got it all.
Straub.
That's like, what do we call the plie? When it was in the plie. Yeah, we were coaching the plie.
So awesome.
And I was in here doing it on the video, saying, okay, so for your plie, you need to have your feet in this position. Then Nikki walked in and she said, that's a plie. And I was like, oh damn.
Did you have to refilm everything?
It was an internal video.
Oh, sweet.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Okay, all good. So quick little background. I come from a gymnastics background, so we're aligned there. I trained as a gymnast for, I didn't even know how many years, like nearly 10 years. Doing it like serious. It was elite level. And I was too young for the 2000 Olympics. You had to be 13. I wasn't going to be 13 for those Olympics. So it came down to a choice of, do you want to keep training and move to the AIS and quit school, or do you want to kind of have a life? And I chose life. I didn't want to sit around for another 4 years and and do it. But I honestly, to this day, I can't watch gymnastics anymore because there's always this like inner battle of like, what if? Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It kills me. So I then moved into dance, and what had started to happen was that this is not a fucking short summary, is it? This is
go, man. We got time.
Story.
Big pot of coffee right there.
Sods, guys. So anyway, this is just trying to explain my ethos, which is basically, again, aligned with you guys in that I'm really, really passionate about trying to combine strength and flexibility, or essentially cultivate more mobility. But basically with dance, it was about really pushing your flexibility. There's a bit of strength there. In fact, there's quite a lot of strength there, but for the most part, it's very much about flexibility. So what started to happen was that I lost my strength that I had from gymnastics, but just kept this excessive amount of flexibility. And then I started to get aches and pains. So in dance, they were like, at this time, why don't you get into yoga? Back in the day. And so they're like, if you have back pain, yoga's what you should do. It's like the common advice, right? Yeah, naturally. So I went into yoga, started stretching out even more, and it was just really, can I swear? I've already sworn like hundreds of times anyway. Okay, so it was really fucking everything up royally even more, but I just kept going and kept going. And it wasn't until I actually did a PT session with someone who was like, you probably need to strength train, hey? And I was like, nah, fuck that, I don't want to get bulky. And so I just listened to him, let him take me through one session. I walked out of there completely pain-free. And I'd walked in that kind of like joint, I mean, maybe you guys don't know what it's like to have like hypermobile pain, but it's like...
I've never felt it.
You've never felt it. It's like, I'm sure do you have clients here that are like...
One day I'd like to be able to feel that. Just a little bit.
Just one day. It's such a shitty feeling. It's like kind of like you're like achy in the joints, but you're so flexible. So it's not like stiffness. And you kind of think, oh, if I stretch it out, it'll make it better. And it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And so I walked in pain, and then I came and did strength training and just felt like pain-free when I walked out. So from there I was hooked. Became a yoga teacher, then became a personal trainer, and then realized that I really needed to combine the two and create something that was about combination, because what you often find just with human beings in general is that we tend to gravitate towards the things we like and neglect the things that we may not like / need. And so it was about trying to make it all very accessible to people, you know. Typically you have guys that don't do any mobility work, and you have girls that, you know, overstretch and go to their Pilates classes and want quote unquote long lean muscles, and so they think they're going to get that from stretching their tissue, and they don't do enough strength training. And so it was just about trying to combine the two.
When you combined them, did you come up with something similar to the gymnastics at the end? Sort
of. Yeah, I guess I used a lot of principles from that. But for some girls, like even that's still, like particularly with hypermobility, like even some of the gymnastic stuff at times I have to stay away from if I'm not also doing like the heavier lifting stuff that's just sort of really, I don't know, I guess it's the neurological response as well, particularly because hypermobility has so much to do with your nervous system. So when you lift and you have to recruit so much tissue, it just seems to like bring everything back together, and you just feel so much better. Whereas if you're doing the gymnastic stuff, which obviously is still, there's a lot of recruitment, because it's under you're in a sort of your deepest range, and then you're trying to recruit that tissue, it's like, it still gets you when you're hypermobile a little bit.
Makes sense. So you found that some like basic strength training has kind of been the key there to just restoring a bit of balance for you.
Yes, 100%. And so, yeah, it was just about building on that and trying to get the word out there. And then I found jiu-jitsu.
Right, which is the ultimate expression of all physical attributes, or perhaps ultimate destruction of all physical attributes.
Yeah, totally.
It depends on your perspective. That's right. Your approach to your training.
Yeah. Exactly.
Depends if you're 20 or 40.
This is true. Perception is reality. I don't know. It's funny. I love it so much, and I will try my best not to just spam the whole podcast talking about how much I love it. So
where do you train? What jiu-jitsu do you mean?
So I've just started actually no-gi down at Sydney West Martial Arts, and for
it's just around the corner.
I know, it's so far away.
Is it Penrith?
Yeah, I drive an hour there and an hour back just to get there for this.
That's amazing.
Jiu-jitsu. It's badass. Yeah, it's really good. And
they only do no-gi?
They do one fundamentals class just for anyone that wants to still put the gi on. But yeah, they're pretty much like they're like
that's great.
They're
we
very.
should do that. I've been
You wanted the
saying to
fucking
do
gi.
that for ages.
He's like, we got to get him in the geese. We got to get him in the geese. Now it's like, we need more. Yeah.
Ah, damn it. No, I'm sure I was saying no gi.
Here's a question with that gym.
Tell me.
When they grade their students, what the fuck do? They put belts on over the top of their no-gi clothes? Or do they make them wear this
Yes.
uniform for grading day?
So Luke Martin, who is badass with leg locks.
I've seen Luke, I don't know him personally, but I've watched him
seen his-
commentate the event and I've seen him compete.
Yeah.
And he looks very, very fucking
It's
good.
insane.
Yeah.
And such a maze training out there because I feel like I've just started again. And it's a bit of a joke. Everyone's like, you're a blue, but like when we stand up to line up for the class and I just try and hide down with the white belts because I'm like, I'm not blue belt here. Honestly, like I feel really shit because it's a whole new thing. Like no gi just feels so different to me coming from gi. Yeah, what was the question? Fuck, lost it. What'd you say?
The belt.
I don't know, but
Did
I
they
just-
give you
the
a
belt,
belt?
yeah.
Or they
Yes,
give you
so the belt. No,
Yeah.
so basically what happens is I think in the past they'd done, you put your gi on and they do it that way. But I think now Luke's changing it. So they've got a grading this Monday, which I will not be trying to.
I reckon
just
like
show up, you
what
never
about
know.
like a coloured
Got to be in it to win it.
coloured top?
Yeah,
or
you do.
something like
Yeah,
that.
you do have the
That'd
coloured.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
do have the
that's
graded things.
But you don't hang the coloured polyester top up on your wall. You hang the fucking belt, man. It's like it's gone through the ages. Samurai wore
Oh,
that
that you
shit.
do that? You hold on to your belt and hang it?
Fuck yeah. Well, I mean, I don't, yet, but maybe one day I will.
Do you still have your white belt?
No, because it got given to. What did they do with it? Maybe I do have it. I can't remember. It was all when I got given my blue belt. It was all very haphazard, and actually, the coach. I don't know what he was thinking, but he graded a purple belt, like a guy that was blue. He took his blue off, gave him a purple,
Yep.
and then he was like, "Joe, come here," and then he gave me his blue belt.
Oh.
And so I was like, oh, cool. Like I got this old blue belt. And then the blue belt came up to me and I was like, can I get my belt back? Because I kind of want to keep it. And I was like, yeah, I guess I got to buy a blue belt. No worries.
Yes.
So I think, I don't know what happened, but he
great.
probably took my white belt to give it to some new recruit,
Yeah, right.
resell it for
Yeah,
15 bucks.
maybe.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
I was just going to clarify for folks, if you don't understand the gi and no gi discussion, in jiu-jitsu, typically you wear the big heavy kimono, and that's called a gi, G-I. And then there's this other aspect of the sport, which is where you practice it without that uniform and you just wear like a rash guard and fight shorts or tights, and that's no gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So they're the two and the difference is with the gi, you got all the grips, right?
You got all the grips. And so for gi, I train at Garage Jiu-Jitsu in Bondi and my teacher's name is Guy and he's
Gi's an old
badass.
homie. Shout out to the guy, I know him
Shout
from
out to
way back.
Guy, he's awesome, and I owe so much of his the way his brain works. He's really conceptual in the way he teaches, so it's like very much about understanding concepts, and he really drills it in. And so, yeah, I just got bit really hard.
Wow. How
Yeah,
many
I couldn't
days a
tell.
week are you training?
I train every day now, except Sunday. Actually, Sunday now I don't train because most of the time no one's open. I would if
But
I
if
could.
they are.
Yeah, if they were, I would literally.
Oh,
go
you're
down and train.
addicted.
You're really
I know.
Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing.
Can I ask how old you are?
33.
33, right on. I actually,
Yeah. Why?
no, I was going to say I expected you were around that age. I think for a lot of folks, you get bitten really hard by it, particularly when you're in your 20s. And it's also when you have the time and the physical capacity to just do it all the time.
Yes.
I think to take it up or to be in it now in your 30s, you have to be a lot more intelligent about how you manage your recovery, how you manage the volume, your approach to the training, all that stuff.
Accessory work as well is very
Yeah.
important. isn't
Yeah,
it?
100%. And also for women, like menstrual cycle. So I just checked do you notice
Do you get
I'm wearing a
extra
whoop?
strength when it's...
Have you guys heard about the whoop?
I got a whoop for Misa,
Fuck
my partner.
yeah.
She loves it.
What is it?
Do you get...
I
a
dig
watch?
this so much. No, so it's not a watch. So basically, it just gives you a lot of data. I'm opening it. I'm not texting someone, by the way. I'm just opening it. But today, my recovery, the reason I bring it up is that my recovery was at 17%. Is really bad.
Holy shit.
What does that mean?
You're about to
So
die.
I'm about to die. So my HRV today was 76, but normally it's at like in the 200s.
Heart rate variability for
Heart
those
rate
not in the
variability,
know.
exactly. And so it tracks your sleep, it tracks your heart rate throughout your sleep, it tracks heart rate throughout the day. It's honestly, it's changed the game for me in terms of just being more aware of things that you normally might push through. It just gives you more feedback. It's just data at the end of the day. And
So take a break kind of thing.
totally.
Or not.
Which I will not.
Because there's
'Cause I
sometimes
wanna
you're
go to
like,
jiu-jitsu.
okay, I feel like I need a break. And then it's telling you, no, you don't need a break yet. Go
Yeah,
train.
that too. Exactly. Yeah, totally.
So is it an app or is it the hardware?
So the hardware is taking the feedback from my heart.
So that is not a Apple Watch with
It's
this
not an
app
Apple
on
Watch.
it. It's a okay.
Exactly.
It's
So
just
what
this
is it called?
benign kind of thing that sits on your wrist,
Exactly.
doesn't it?
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
whole interface is
Totally.
Yeah.
Ah, I
It's
see.
got
Yep.
the
So
laser thing.
What's
and
it
then
called again?
A Whoop.
A Whoop.
Yeah.
Whoop-de whoop.
Yeah. It's
Well,
really,
I
I'm not
want
selling
one.
it.
I kind of used to be against wearables, but I think
Me
I
too.
want one because everyone I've spoken to is like everything has improved since wearing it.
Yeah.
Like my sleep is better,
Yeah.
my energy management, just everything's improved.
It tracks your REM, it tracks your SW, like your deep sleep. It tracks, and so it kind of gives you an indication. So for a really long time, I haven't been getting any REM, and I wasn't aware of that. And then I've started to change and like create a bedtime routine, and it's completely changed the game. And so I started to see HRV go up. And then what's been interesting as well with menstrual cycle is I noticed as well is that, you know, during your follicular phase and then your luteal phase, like you have different
The fuck are those?
HRVs. And yeah, exactly. All right. Wrong podcast.
Is this
Oh,
menstrual
all right,
cycle?
good.
Nah,
No,
we're
please.
good.
I would like to know more.
Follicular and luteal.
Yeah. You know, fuck off. I know you know.
I don't
this.
know.
What?
I don't.
Come.
Follicular makes me
Have
think.
to, do you
So
have
I
any
know.
women
Okay,
training
let's do
here?
it.
Do you have
Let's
women
talk about
training?
this. I
I'm not
wanna
going to
hear.
No, I can't bring this to
Yeah,
the
50% of our gym are women, and we've
Except-
all got wives here, so we need to know. I think it's important.
It is super important. You have
Yeah,
to do
let's
the
talk
you have
about
to do the research. Yeah, but I don't want to. No, because I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to be like dropping facts that are like slightly off, and then I'm going to be like, oh, so it's
You'll be torn to shreds.
Better than
well,
no
not
facts
just torn
at
to
all.
shreds, but then everyone's going to be like, is it this or that? It's like, no, we got to be factual here.
What
But I
about-
highly recommend.
What happens when you go into your menstrual cycle? Does it take energy out away from the body and make you feel like
Yeah, so basically a week out.
longer recovery?
Usually a week out from when you have your period, your HRV will drop, which is
Right.
not what we want. So for the HRV, heart rate variability, we want to be high and we want our resting heart rate to be low.
Right.
And so your heart rate variability is something that gives you such a strong indication of the state of your nervous system at the time. And so it's really, am I too far away from the mic?
No, not at all.
Okay, good. And so it gives you a really good indication that you may not otherwise be aware of. Because you know how you have those people that train and they're like, you know that as a trainer, they're overtraining.
Yeah.
And they're like, but I feel fucking fine, man.
I just love it here. I love training.
Yeah, I love training. It's like, okay, but you're also going through a divorce and you haven't had sex in 8 weeks or whatever it might be, right? That's not my current situation, by the way. But anyway, not that there's anything wrong with it if it is your situation. But just, can you see, I'm such a discllame machine.
Totally, yeah.
Which we'll talk
There's
about
no
when we get to
litigation
social
happening here.
media.
Yeah.
I know.
Disclaimer machine.
So, where was I up to? Anyway, basically, it just gives you indication as to how your body is actually coping on a physiological level that you may not otherwise be aware of because you've been so good at ignoring signals for a really long time. You know, so that's
I can see the use in one of those. I probably wouldn't. I'd test one out, like I'd do it for a month or something like that, try and learn something from it. But just because I'm not that used to wearing wearables
Yeah.
all the time, and I fucking ruin things. I go through a pair of shoes in like 6 months. So I'd probably just have to, learn from it and then see if I can carry that over.
I would put one on my wife so I
Okay.
can monitor her
Put one on
variable
her?
heart rate, the whoop,
Yes.
and then I'll know when she's in a grumpy mood or not.
Yeah, that's it. Do you
When
know
to-
what? Yeah. When to buy presents and be
bring
really...
some flowers home or something.
Yeah.
You could
that's
share data.
beautiful. I actually
Cook
think that's
dinner.
a really good idea.
Well, I do that every night anyway, so no, only joking. Disclaimer: wife, no,
Don't cook every
don't
night.
cook every night.
He's moonwalking. T's making a moonwalking.
I bought one for Misa for her birthday a couple of months ago, but she you probably don't know she's 23 weeks pregnant, and so she
You told
did
me.
I tell you that?
Yeah, you
I
told
did
me.
tell
And
you
then I
that.
was like, am I allowed to say it on the podcast?
Oh it's
it's
everyone
out there.
knows.
It's out there.
Actually, not everyone knows, but we spoke about it last week.
Congratulations,
now.
Joe.
Thanks,
and
man.
Mesa.
Super
Woo.
excited.
Yeah.
But I was like, I gave it to her, and I'm like, I'm sorry because like in 6 months there'll be a newborn. like your sleep's going to be fucked up, and this is only going to tell you how fucked up it is. Yep. But I was like, but I think there's a couple of good 6 months ahead, and then you can just, but it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to have one. I got 3 kids, and my eldest, I suspect, isn't sleeping that well or doesn't sleep that well. I think he's a bit of a mouth breather, potentially. And
Feel that.
he got, for his birthday last year, he got like an Avengers Fitbitty type thing. I don't know whether it's the Fitbit brand. I think it is, actually.
Yeah.
He wanted the watch, got the watch. I downloaded the app for it, and I didn't realize it came with all this shit. And it actually measures his sleep, but I think it's a really poor man's version in terms of the detail that's involved and the accuracy on it. Plus, he has to wear it to bed in order to do that, and that distracts him because you can play with it.
Yeah.
But I would like something like that, for instance. I'd love to actually monitor him over a week and see how he's sleeping, because I'll pop my head in there and we're wondering, and we'd like to learn from the data and then, how he's reacting, how he's behaving the next day. At the moment, it's a bit of a guess. And if technology can help
do that,
that'd be
exactly.
really cool.
Yeah. Exactly. We've got to use tech for good.
Yeah.
Should we talk about using tech for bad?
Let's talk about it. So give us a rundown on today. It was kind of a big topic that we're going to get into.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm excited.
Let's hit it. And so there was a couple of parts that tied into it, but what came to the forefront was redefining, essentially talking about.
No, wait.
Don't go there.
I was going to say, just let's.
All right.
I'm so on the let's talk social media.
All right, so we're talking social media.
So just to give you background on this conversation, Joey had messaged me and said hey, we have an idea of what we want to talk about, but what do you want to talk about? And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to talk about women being stronger and empowerment through strength. And I say this with a funny voice, but I'm obviously genuinely passionate about that. But I feel like there's just such a huge issue in social media and mental health and maintaining it. And I feel like that's the direction you wanted to go in, right?
Well, yeah, that was kind of the thing at the forefront of our mind.
Yeah.
But then on discussion, we're like, well, these things are kind of inextricably linked in a way.
Well, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Let's drop it.
So so the social media piece, I'm halfway through The Social Dilemma on Netflix right now.
Right. Which I haven't started yet.
Have you guys seen that?
Just watched it, fresh off the press.
Fuck my life.
Is it depressing?
Same guys that did Chasing Coral.
It depends on how you see things.
Nice.
I think it's amazing. It's not depressing at all.
I don't know what it's about. Can we get a summary? Is anyone good at summaries here?
Yeah. I could give you a short one. It's a Netflix doco. It features a lot of interviews and conversations with people who worked quite high up in development and management in high-tech companies, big ones, Facebook, Pinterest, Google, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. And they're uncovering, they're basically saying that there needs to be rules and regulations for tech companies because they are highly responsible for what's going on for billions of people. And they're smart guys, really smart people, I should say, who are there writing code that influence so many people. They're motivated by money, which is a problem. And they are using their smarts and to basically take advantage of vulnerable people or the vulnerable traits in human beings.
Yes.
And now that's moving into the political arena, which is probably one of the most scary scenarios.
That's how it
I could
actually
imagine.
transfers from an innocent little bit of code into, say, something more on a global,
insidious,
geopolitical kind of thing. Yeah.
And I think, one of the big things I took away from only having watched half is that it's the Gen Y kids.
Correct.
That are the ones that are getting truly fucked over.
Yeah.
And statistically, there's a lot of things to show that it is having a hugely detrimental effect on their lives because they've never had a life without it. Whereas we have, so we can
transitional generation, isn't it?
Yeah, for them, it's just always been the way of life, and it's causing harm on a mass scale.
Yeah, we're older, more mature, and so we're, as in us in this room, we're a little older, more mature, so we got more of the tools. But even
Different
adults
building
aren't susceptible to their vulnerabilities. People have different traits.
I think so.
And you catch someone at the wrong time.
Yeah.
it can just negatively spiral for them.
I was sitting on the couch with my mum last night and she turned to me and she sort of showed me her Instagram. She's like, oh, this photo didn't get many likes. I was like,
No.
what? And she's not, I mean, she gives zero fucks about it most of the time, but even her, you know, so it's like, it is about accessing vulnerable aspects of our psychology as human beings and pinpointing them. And even someone like my mum who did not, you know, grew up in Fiji, like super poor, does not care about that, cares about what happens like offline and in real life. And even for someone like her, it's tapped into her need as a human being for gratification, you know, and we all have it. We all have it. That's okay. But it's just how good are these apps at making us more addicted to the validation that we get and the gratification.
Yeah. Well, the doco basically reveals that that's their whole job.
Right.
Yeah. They're just trying to engage you more and more and keep you engaged.
Yes.
Because they're selling your engagement.
In marketing, it's called like the economy of attention and like different. And this is where, you know, coming from someone who works, you know, a lot of my work comes out of social media. It's like every post that I have, or even people will have, when brands come at an influencer, for example, they'll look at 10 different influencers and they'll say, okay, the economy of attention is like, how much attention is this person going to get from a post versus this person? And so this person who gets more attention is more valuable, right? And it doesn't always necessarily mean if someone has more followers that they're going to get more attention. Sometimes if someone has a smaller community but it's more engaged, they'll have, you know, they'll get more money, or they'll get, you know,
that's more valuable to the company.
Exactly.
So for the listeners, you're a social media influencer, right? You've got almost 500,000 people follow you, right?
Right. And it's so funny. Like every time I took a big breath.
That's 500,000.
The word, almost. No, not the. It's funnily enough, it's not the. Yeah, it's the word.
I look at that, I'm like, crap. Yeah, it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. It's so funny. You know, I remember when I had like 3,000, and I was like, fuck, imagine 3,000 people standing in a room listening to what you had to say.
It's bananas.
There's a lot of people. And so then when you compare it, and then you think about, okay, right now, yeah, almost 500,000 people standing in a room listening like that, you know, it's powerful. And so, yes, there definitely cannot deny that I'm an influencer. I think the reason I cringe at that word is because it's sort of the umbrella term for a lot of shitty people.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, it's a position of where you have there should be a level of moral responsibility when you have that kind of audience.
I think there's moral responsibility for all of us.
For sure,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
but the bigger the audience, the more impact you have.
Exactly.
You know, and
you can quote Superman if you want.
What's that quote?
With great power
comes great responsibility.
Isn't that? I thought that was Batman. It's not Batman?
It's one of those.
I thought it was Spider-Man.
Demigods.
Jesus.
Yes,
but well, in a way, you know, you start having a bit of pull, you know.
Exactly.
Just on that point, though, I often wonder that in my own mind, looking at things, it always comes to mind with NRL. You know, you're seeing NRL players often get in trouble for doing stupid shit. And it's always like, oh, another NRL player fucking did whatever. And you know, and then there's all this blow up, they should be better people and whatever. And in a sense, I'm like, it's some young guy that was just good at sport and got launched into this career and some money thrown at him. Just because he has notoriety, why should we actually expect that he should be a better person than he is? Like, is it fair for us to expect that because you're now earning $1 million a year and whatever, and you've got a bit of a celebrity profile, that you should, is it fair to expect more?
I think so. Well, I think for sure it is. I mean, you're getting paid to do a job, and that job entails you being a role model to a younger generation. And not just that, the things that you do get emulated by the people around you that look up to you. So if you're treating people like shit or you're doing dumb shit, then all of a sudden it becomes socially acceptable. So I think for sure you have a responsibility.
So I agree that it should be, but is it written into their contract that they're a role model?
That's what I mean.
I think it is,
where the
isn't
parameters
it?
need to be.
I don't know.
I thought normally there's a good behaviour clause.
I think it says don't be a dickhead on weekends.
On Monday.
Yeah, but what's the definition?
But we want you to be a fucking savage when the ball's on the field.
That's the problem. I think a lot of these contracts are very are easy to manipulate because it allows you to make a scapegoat of somebody who's not going to be, a star player. And then when you've got someone that's a little more marketable, that's a golden boy or something like that, you can skid around the edges and allow them a little bit more leeway, because obviously they make more money,
Yeah.
So then social media, in a sense, has really given rise to, it's super unregulated from that perspective, isn't it? Because it's given rise to people such as yourself, which thankfully you seem to be a very good human.
Thank you.
That's excellent. But there are people out there who perhaps carry levels of influence and don't have any of the this feeling of obligation to spread a balanced and healthy message, or share good politics, or bring to light social issues, whatever, right? Like it's kind of the Wild West in a sense.
It is the Wild West. I think we also have to consider, like, is it social media that's bad, or are humans just fucking shit? Sorry for the dark thing, but it's like
No.
we have dark aspects in our psyche that I think social media just brings to light in a way that it never has been at the forefront of our awareness before. So it's similar to the way people are like, oh fuck, COVID sucks. It does 100%, but it's also brought to light a lot of the dysfunctions in our society, like not just in our day-to-day lives, restricting us and forcing us to sit in our quote unquote shit. Hopefully not literally. That was a metaphor.
Whatever.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. It's okay if that's what you're into. No judgment. But also, environmentally, politically, it's exposed a lot. So I think that social media, like, for example, we're not going to get angry at like Samsung for creating TV, or for producing a TV that happens to also have bad TV shows on it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that with okay, so to come back to social dilemma in a sec, because I do think that the tech companies do have a responsibility, definitely.
Yeah.
That's been wild wested to a degree, right? But I think that also we have to, as consumers, take responsibility. Like, where are we potentially perpetuating this? Because as much as it has to come from the top down, I think it also has to come from a grassroots consensus of like, hey, social media is like exposing some pretty shitty aspects of us as human beings. We should probably take responsibility for this.
Yeah, and learn how to critically or practice critical thinking,
Yes.
and know when you're in this echo chamber and no one's going to challenge your point of view.
Absolutely.
And this when you talk about like this exposure of the shitty part of humanity, and like you said, we all have a bit in it, but if you have constant exposure to anything, your perspective starts to change and your mindset starts to become more of that. And I think this is really problematic, because once you start shifting population mindset, that's when these movements start to happen. Some of them are positive. Some of them that we're seeing now are really detrimental. And I think social media has had a huge role to play in that,
Yeah, definitely. I think something that, like, for anyone listening to remember is that we have, because it's in our back pocket, because it's on our phone, because it started, Facebook and all these things started as this thing that seemed like you were just sharing aspects of reality. Like you were kind of just like sharing a little pic of your family or this, and it was very personal. But now what influencers especially have become very good at is sharing what looks like is very real and personal, but it's highly curated, and it's highly curated to look real, so that then when they happen to post something that's selling to you, whether it's their own product or a different product, you're like, whoa, that's real, because the rest of what you have seen from them also appears to be real.
Like it all fits into this kind of common thread.
Totally. So it's really subtle behavioral manipulation, basically.
Yeah.
And this is where it's really important to be well aware of that going on, and then kind of put it down, know when to put it down. But as we were talking about, it's like, young people don't know when to put it down.
It's the vulnerable. That's what I'm mainly concerned about.
I've been there before, actually, only like recently, because we did our marketing section for our internship, and I sat in that with Joe, delivered it. And one of the challenges he put out to us was to post every day, and I got up to posting once a week, and that was kind of like good. And I couldn't stop checking to see how many more likes. Oh, there's 2 more likes for that post. Oh, someone's commented. Okay, I comment back. But then all of a sudden you start scrolling. Before you know it, starts to become this this behavior that you just pick the phone up and you just look, and you don't even realize you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's almost like this window gets opened to your mind and stuff just starts entering it. And this is when I think it gets a bit dangerous. You know?
That's a great point. That's something that they mentioned in the social dilemma, is that I can't remember how it's articulated, and it wasn't that this was intentional, but what it's become is that the social media has the ability to control your thoughts. It can actually get in your head and start to change the way you think when you're not with it. And that's the really scary part, is because it's not like you just, you're influenced when you're on it and then you're off it and then you're back in the room. It's like, no, it's kind of still there.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So how do we use this tool for good? How do we use this for good? I've been stalking your Instagram this morning, actually.
Yeah.
And I really liked what I saw, and it wasn't.
Thank you.
The exercise stuff is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's these little segments in between that I noticed, and I'm not sure if this is what is supposed to be happening when you're looking at these things. I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to social media, but I'm looking at your. What is it? A page?
Yeah, like the
scroll?
the
grid feed.
The grid.
Yeah.
The grid.
And there'll be exercises, nutritional advice, all this lovely stuff. But then there'll be some quite hard-hitting topics that pop up.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about this process that happens within your page?
Yeah, honestly, I think those small posts that I do that are a bit more hard-hitting are what I feel most passionate about. Not to say that I'm not passionate about fitness and things like that. Obviously I am. But I feel like I actually don't want people to be taking fitness advice or nutrition advice from Instagram. They will. It's what happens. So better us than some of the other skinny tea bullshit stuff that's out there. But I think that the more poignant posts, or the posts that really mean something to me, are the ones where I'm sort of like calling attention to this thing that's happening to society to a degree. And also because I recognize that I'm keeping people on Instagram by making content. And so I have this constant internal battle where I'm like, I know I have to post every day because the algorithm will fuck me up if I don't, and it'll go, oh, you didn't post? All right, well, we'll shove you down the algorithm list.
Yeah.
So when you don't post, you get penalized. And when I do post, I'm penalizing essentially my audience because I'm calling them to my page. I'm calling them to stay on their phone. It's like just one more thing, like come here, give me your attention one more time. And so what I like to do now is post things that are like, get the fuck off this thing. Or like make sure you look up and or like take a moment to like do some breath work for a second, or if you have time to scroll, you have time to stretch, or how deep are you in the scroll hole, like is there something else that you could be doing right now with your time? And I say that not from this like smug position, like I'm such a sanctimonious person and I never go on Instagram. It's like I can only say this stuff because I find myself in deep scroll holes as well, where I'm like, holy fuck, 20 mins. I could have done a whole mobility sequence.
Yeah. And if you times that over a year, you could do like I
got to learn a new language.
You could get a blue belt.
Yeah.
I mean, most people could get a blue belt.
Sorry.
Are you okay?
I am. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
That's when you need the sound thing.
Which one?
Press the button.
On that topic.
Shut up, T.
No, that is not the one.
We need the womp, womp, womp.
Yes.
We got that, don't fuck.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We can make our own with your voice. I've got another question on that.
Yes, please drop it.
So let's look at a couple of examples. We've got, and this is really interesting. This one really grabbed my attention, and it was, is nudity and the objectification of women in fitness problematic? And you had 315 comments come through that one statement, and I thought, holy shit! Like,
was that just the post was just that statement?
Fantastic! I loved it, and I was just like, wow, look at the. And I was scrolling, and they weren't just like heart, love this,
no.
love you, girl. It was fucking essays of people from the fitness industry, other influencers, giving their perspective of this particular question. And I thought, wow, look at the interaction here, and the topic is very relevant, and to say when I look through your page, there's still butt, there's still legs, there's still beautiful body, but it's not
The thirst traps.
just butt. in the sake of butt. You know what I mean? You can. There's a different look for what you're posting in comparison to your standard fitness model. I would advise anyone to have a look at your stuff just to get an idea of what I'm talking about. But the question is, how do you manage 315 comments, and are you involved in this conversation, or are you just setting the stage to facilitate people to interact in this kind of space?
That's a good question. I actually, probably more the latter. I wanted to just sort of, if you're going to sit on Instagram, let's it's social media for a reason. So let's
talk.
I skip the small talk most of the time. I'm always about going straight to medium talk, right? So it's like, let's go deep with a question that a lot of people have opinions over, and nothing gets people more fired up than feminism in general. And so that question probably sits under the sort of umbrella of feminism to a degree. Essentially, I'm saying is it bad that we objectify women, or are we objectifying them? And so, I don't manage 350. I started to, and then some people get really triggered and really angry, and so I just check out because I'm like, okay, cool, you guys just have your conversation there, and then you have people arguing back and forth as well.
Wow.
And you let that go, you don't?
I just let it go, yeah. I mean, unless someone's being like racist or something, there's some hate speech going on there, in which case I'll just block it. For the most part, you can actually do that, by the way. There's like a handy tip. You can go in and block words in comments, which I think is really beneficial, especially these days. Yeah, so because with everything that's going on, it's like you just don't want that hate speech in your comments. So it's handy to be able to do that. You can,
You had you were really vocal around the Black Lives Matter movement, and you were posting a lot about and posting a lot of resources. I took a lot of inspiration from the stuff that you were putting out there over that time. But I noticed you also brought to light the fact that every time you talk about that stuff and stuff similar to that, you lose followers. What happens? What is that? And and obviously for someone who is, it's your business, you're trying to amass followers and attention, but then you're also making a decision to cull. How does that all play out?
It's interesting because for a long time, I felt really passionate about being political on social media and, really stating my claim and saying, well, if I have this many people, I'm gonna be like, here's my stance, guys. Particularly for something, that's relatively close to my heart. For anyone that hasn't seen what I look like, I am brown.
Are you Fijian? You mentioned your mum.
Fijian, Indian, someone. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
my mix. And then Aussie. Yep. On the other side. So
you guys could be
it's
cousins somewhere along the line.
Maybe.
Probably are, yeah. And so I feel quite passionately about something like that. So it started to get quite emotional for me. But what I realized was that aside from the losing followers stuff, that doesn't bother me because people come and go, and I think you have to be authentic because otherwise you're going to find you get this fatigue of trying to play someone. It's just like being in a relationship, right? If you are, you can fake it till you make it with someone, but eventually you're going to start to aspects of the real you will come out, and then it's wait, who the fuck is this?
You're going to shit the bed at some point.
You're going to shit the bed at some point. Yeah, exactly. And so the same thing happens on social media. You can pretend for so long, and there's so many case studies like this where there's so many people that have come out and said, it's not me, and here's how many filters I was using, and this is not the life that I blah, 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 blah. And so I just...
admitted to their audience that it's been a facade?
Yes, it's been a facade, and that they've, here's how many photos I had to take to get one perfect one. And we've it's a really common story. And so I'm not about that life of having to keep up appearances.
That'd be tough.
Right. That said, what also starts to happen if you're I just don't think it's possible to be fully authentic on social media. And the reason being is that it's not, and we really need to get into our heads, it is just not an authentic place. It is curated. No. It is
it's a show, isn't it?
It's
really?
a show, exactly.
Yeah, it's like being on stage.
Totally. If I was really going to show you a day in the life of Shona, it'd be wake up, have my probiotic, have my coffee, take a shit. Do you want to see me take a shit? Maybe on OnlyFans. P.S. I don't have an OnlyFans. Yet. We'll see if things get desperate. No, I'm joking. Definitely joking. Okay. So
Disclaimer.
Okay, so now I'm thinking about OnlyFans. Where was I up to? What was I up to?
Taking a shit.
Showing
the real stuff.
Right, exactly. The real stuff. So authenticity. And so I think that, no, but what was the original question?
How you manage that,
yes.
Talking about things that are going to turn some people off.
Yes, exactly. And so then I came to the realization that, it's just social media. the real stuff happens in your real life. So what started to happen, I feel, with Black Lives Matter and, you know, any sort of political movement, even when it was like Brexit time and all sorts of things going on, is that people start to get really aggressive about these posts that are quite performative, like kind of showing like, here's my political stance and here's, you know, it's about joining a group more than it is about what you're actually doing day to day. And so then people start living for the gram as opposed to actually going, like, well, okay, that's great that you posted a black square or posted someone else's infograph that they've put lots of effort into getting the statistics for and you've just copy and pasted it and put it in yours. But what are you actually doing when you're voting? What are you doing when you're making purchases? Like all those sorts of things are the difference here. And so I started to think, actually, there's too much nuance that gets missed in a single political post. There's too much grey that cannot ever be covered for in a single post. So now I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to, you know, if there's something I'm truly passionate about, then I'll post about it. But for the most part, it's like, you guys know where I stand.
Yeah, right.
You know.
So you try not to cover all of the bases through social media now. It's like, I'm going to let that go and that's just my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'll address that in my behavior.
I'll address it in my behavior.
Yeah.
Because the real stuff is what's happening on offline, you know, and I know that I do have a platform, so I have to honor that. And so I'll do one post, but I got so caught up in that. I mean, I was really feeling
like you were working
shit.
hard. I could see you putting a lot in. You obviously had a lot of shit coming back at you.
Totally. And it was exhausting to have that kind of energy constantly. And, you know, and it's like, I was like,
and there's a pressure associated with that,
Totally.
where it's like, now's your time. You have a platform, do something, and it's like, oh, fuck, what do I do? Can I actually affect anything here?
Yeah.
Am I just adding fuel to a fire? Am I
actually contributing in a way that's beneficial, or am I? The other thing is that what we're taught, you know, particularly, I think if you're trying to live a more mindful life, is to not be reactive. Right. And to sort of take pause for a second. So when something triggers you, triggers an emotional response in you, let's say off the gram, like just in real life, the good old days, and something happens and you feel angry, like the idea behind what I like to practice, which is, you know, mindfulness is take a moment, take a deep breath, pause before I react to this with whatever emotion I'm currently feeling. And that's why I do yoga. That's why I do meditation. On Instagram, what can often happen is that people expect these very instant responses from you, and it does. You feel hot and because you're in it, you know, you're really in that scroll hole, you're deep in that hashtag. It can be hard to actually take a moment and actually put the phone down for a second and practice mindfulness. And so I found myself like not meditating. I found myself, you know, waking up in the morning and checking my phone, which is just rules I just don't break normally. So yeah, no,
Is it plight? Is that the word? Of the activist,
plie?
Isn't it?
Are you trying to say plie again?
Plight of the activist. And
right.
Yeah, I understand there's a point where you have to switch from this reactive to active place, but someone's got to speak up as well, you know? So it's sometimes you could step away from a space like that and think, okay, just got to cool down, and then the momentum starts to lose and you're like, fuck it, I'll just let it go.
Right, that can happen too.
But I think action is what creates change, you know?
Yeah.
So.
But I think you have to create space for critical thinking. That's the difference. And so like, I think if you can take a moment, put the phone down and just critically analyze the situation, the post that you're going to come back with, when you do come back with a post, that it's just going to be so much more effective and so much more, just beneficial. So Speaking of
posts, there's another really interesting one that you put up, and it was
is that the one with the camel toe thing?
No, it was
that was very interesting.
That little graphic.
Isn't that great?
That was awesome.
I should have put it upside down though. I realized.
Oh, so it matched.
Yeah. to scale.
Someone brought that up this morning. They're like, "Have you seen this? You seen what your guest is doing?" I was like, "That's fucking awesome."
It's a big joke. Like,
I started following you yesterday, and that was the first post that came up, and I pressed like on it, and I was like, "Oh, that's probably gonna look a bit creepy." It's the only post I've liked is the camel.
Post that to your liked.
I'm just trying to normalize it. It's such a big deal, unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. That was not the question I asked.
No, it was. I'd like you to talk to me about or us about the post on. You posted a comment on the black and white pics of the Turkish women.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So that was such a disaster, that whole thing.
There was a hashtag gone.
Fuck's sake,
What?
that was bad.
Screwed.
Yeah, but also it wasn't, so even that post that I then shared, which was highlighting Turkish women and the violence against them, the black and white photo did not start with Turkish women.
Right.
So even that was not a fact. So what had happened was there was a post, kind of like viral thing that had happened where people wanted to just post black and white images of themselves.
For like a week or more,
Yeah,
I
it
had
felt
no
like a
idea
few-
what was going on.
Right, it was a few days. The
I could
girls
see
were
the
like,
pattern emerging was females.
it was like, like girls supporting girls, like
Yes,
post
that's what it
it,
was.
I nominate you, post a picture. And so you'd get these DMs and you get these DMs saying like, I nominate you, like please post a black and white picture. And so I hadn't done it for a long time. And then my manager in the UK, she'd nominated me and I was like, all right, if Francesca's done it, I'm going to do it. I love her, I respect her. She's a badass feminist. So I was like, okay, cool. Like let's do this. And I didn't even bother to look into it. I post. That everything seems fine, and a few people are kind of like, yeah, great, blah blah blah, whatever. And then there's this one comment that's like, this I can't even remember what it was. It was like, this actually started from Turkish women, and it was about being against violence. It was about violence against Turkish women and trying to make a stand against it. And so you've just hijacked this, and this is Black Square 2.0 or whatever. And so then I was like, holy fuck. If I make a mistake, I'm so down to rectify it. So I was like, shit, okay, let me look into this. So then I start looking into it, and I do find that this is the case. I read the articles, I look at different things that are about this sort of movement. So I then share a post from someone else, and they had done a really thorough post about this movement that had happened. So it was a movement. However, they had claimed that they had started this movement. Then this New York Times journalist came in and was just like, I think New York Times, sorry if that's not the right fact, disclaimer. Basically, she had come in and said, no, actually, like, you're wrong. This started
Holy shit.
back
Somewhere
from
else.
this. And so, yeah, it was somewhere else. But again, it was just women supporting women. But it's like, these are the things that are so fucking time consuming. It was actually this that made me made that decision about not posting political stuff, because I was like, for fuck's sake, like, how many people have died while I'm stressing about this? How many people have, like, it's just such a tiny...
To nitpick on those little things.
To nitpick on something like this, and the amount of fucking cortisol that would have like generated in all these people around the globe looking at their phones, getting very stressed
Wasted
out,
energy.
like wasted energy on something that just really isn't, like, where did it start? It's not important. Like, let's just put it down for a second. Let's chill. We need more chill. We need to not, so that's the background. Again,
Oh, wow.
yeah, never again.
See those type of stories turn me off.
Right.
It totally turned me off
What a
because I have
waste
a bit
of
of a
time.
love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, social media. But yeah, that's just a headache, hey?
Such a headache.
It's like everyone's still supporting women,
Something
right?
Yeah, the
Good.
same. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Totally. And so I know someone will come in and disagree with me here, but I just think that what are we really giving our attention and awareness to? And is it really is it progressing us as human beings? I don't know. I think that's really arguable.
So what can someone do in terms of like managing this tool?
It's a monster.
Well, yeah, that's in your hand that, has great power and has great, there's great opportunities to educate through it and to seek enjoyment, but it also has this huge downside. How does someone go about managing that?
It's a really good question. I think the common answers are like, unfollow the people that make you feel shit. But that really triggers me, that answer, because sometimes I think we have to allow ourselves to get triggered, and then it's actually up to us in how we respond. So I think there's nothing wrong with a trigger if we can kind of go, okay, well, what is this bringing out in me? So yeah, this common response of like, follow people that make you feel good about yourself. But then, as someone of color, I'm like, well, if I post something that is calling attention to your privilege, quote unquote privilege, or something that you may not have known about, experiencing racism, and you're like, she just complains too much about racism, and then you decide to unfollow. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean? So I think it's like that's too blanket advice.
Too simplistic.
Too simplistic, exactly. So actually, I think one of the best things that you can do is pay more attention to developing and cultivating your own self-awareness. And this is just, obviously this applies generally, but this is why I've started studying psychology, because I want to become a psychologist, because I want to implement this more into not just fitness, but hopefully some legislative change.
Nice.
I think we need to, are you saying nice because I got the word out?
Got it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Not because of the legislative
Not because
change
of the,
that
yeah,
you're going to
exactly.
make.
He's like,
I don't know what it means. You just said it good.
thank you. Yes. So I think that we just need some really severe changes to occur in terms of making, I hate using the word mental health, but yes, mental health. But what is that? I think it's cultivating self-awareness, better self-awareness of your mind, of your emotions, of the patterns of human behavior, developing an empathy. And we need to make that more intrinsic in our culture than it has been. And so I think that if you can put more time into that stuff, if you can put more time and energy and effort, maybe follow more psychologists, maybe follow more people that are talking about understanding human behavior, then it's going to make you start to think like, oh shit, like, hey, guess what? I pick up my phone every time I feel a bit uncomfortable because I'm trying to avoid these uncomfortable thoughts. What uncomfortable thoughts am I trying to distract myself from? And so then you put the phone down and you sit with yourself for a second. And it's really interesting to notice just that pattern alone. Even now, when I go out to dinner with friends or go out to a cafe, if my friend goes to the toilet, I make it a point to not pick up my phone and check my phone. I make
Feel
it
that
a point.
compulsion all the time.
Yeah, totally. And I just make an effort to just sit there and be like, I'm going to sit here and not. My hands aren't busy. I don't have a book in front of me even. I just have to sit with this. And then the things that you notice, it's incredible, not just about yourself perhaps, but also just about the world around you. And when I hear, I'm going on such a tangent, but when I hear people say things like, none of you will have any clue about this right now, but when I have a lot of conversations around the single life and people saying, it's so hard to meet people these days and where do you meet people? And I just think, fucking look up. Look up, get off fucking Tinder and all that bullshit. Look up and strike up a conversation with someone about something that's going on in the world around you. It's so much more sexy, I think. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's a real disappointing one. The way, in my personal opinion, and this is coming from spending a good few years as a single man, I think for some reason in our culture, I don't know if it's a Sydney thing, I feel like it's an Australian thing, we're really fucking bad at meeting people. Like we're terrible generally at just having a conversation with someone at a bar or a public place without it being super loaded in terms of like, oh, we've got to hook up now, or you're not my type or whatever. But so the app thing sort of came in at an opportune time where people are like, well, we're shit at this anyway. Now we can just do it from a distance, and it kind of makes the decisions for us. Yeah,
and I guess I know I perhaps from the male perspective, because there are social norms for you guys to sort of like make the first move, right? Or like make the sort of like do the hard bit of like coming up to the person and talking. But like, isn't that fun? No.
Isn't it fun for us to do?
Yeah, isn't that
I've been in the world's longest relationship, but I would think that would be the best part.
It's fun when it's well received, but it's very common. And I experience this a lot where it's like, like all the signs are there, like the looks and the smiles, and then you go over and you're like, oh, hey, like strike up a conversation, or can I buy you a drink, or can we, whatever. And there's like a literal shutdown, like, no, I'm with my friends, and like a back turn, or just something that denotes like total insecurity in that moment, and I'm not even going to fucking engage with you, even though I was just engaging with you.
Is that the womp womp button here?
Yeah.
Maybe they're looking at the guy behind you.
Maybe it's the mullet.
Okay, but hang on.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you get punished for. It's like, I'm just trying to facilitate this thing, and you get punished for it. And so then you're like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Okay, but
a lot of that's just the fear of rejection, isn't it?
It is. Totally.
A lot. There'll be times where most of the time something's going to come out of it, like a conversation, like the scenario that you talked about. There's probably happens much less than someone saying, yeah, let's chat, and have a drink together and whatnot, Yeah,
potentially. But I just compare it to traveling, and when you're overseas, there's certain countries where that is just done a lot better. we're socializing with strangers and having a quick chat to someone and fuck yeah, let's have a drink, whatever. Like,
it
plays out a lot better.
Yeah, but is that because
You're the Aussie?
Yeah, because I don't know whether because we're all Aussie here, so it's like how do we blame? I don't know whether we can blame it on that. But I think that also when you look at what's addictive about our phones, this is a fact. I'll leave a fact. Oh, it's not a fact. It is a fact. Fuck's sake, Shona, just
say it.
Just say the goddamn
This is
fact.
science.
Okay. Anyway, this is something that I found. This is something that I heard on Google. But basically, that little toggle that you pull down when you going through social, right? That's part of. Oh, did they talk about this on Social Dilemma?
They just mentioned
it slightly.
Yeah.
What's the toggle?
So you know the pokies, like how you used to like pull something down.
Yep.
So associating an action is what helps us to become super addicted to something. But what's addictive about this notion of pulling something down is what's called intermittent or invariable reward, or intermittent invariable reward, and I think that's like hitting on certain people. Sorry, I shouldn't say hitting on. Striking up a conversation with another human being with the intention to potentially romantically progress it. How good was that? I got that out in a really right, didn't I? Fuck's sake. Whew. I can feel all the feminists.
Give it the degree already. Give it that psych degree.
Yes, that's all it takes. So basically, essentially what I think is like, if there is that potential of like, isn't it going to happen, can be somewhat exciting and enticing about that situation, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. It makes the wins that much sweeter.
Yeah.
It's true.
Exactly. Not that I'm suggesting that people should get addicted to just doing that part of it.
But it's like when you pull the pokey thing.
Yeah.
You want it like you want the losses because they make the wins sweeter, but you don't want it to be like, haha, we've just drained all your cash and you're like now minus $200. You're like, fuck, I'm never playing pokies again. But if you get like, I just lost $2, I'm going to be back in there. So there's a severity to the loss.
Yes, there is a severity to the loss.
That's perhaps important.
That's key.
So maybe it's the gentle letdown, ladies. That's all
Do you know what? Yes, ladies, actually, can I just say, I think these days.
How did we go here?
It's a dying art.
My
exactly. No, I've got flashbacks to all those years I was a wingman with you.
Paul was the best wingman, even though he had fucking dreadlocks and all the girls wanted to talk to you. You made with the dreadlocks. And I'm like, he's got a girlfriend. Talk to me.
Yeah, it's pretty much our routine for quite a few years. But
hey, you got to be somewhere at one, don't you?
I do have to be somewhere at one.
We're going to wrap it there on a high note, and we're going to say let's continue the conversation at some point, like in a month or a couple of months, whatever.
I'm down.
Get you back in.
I'd love that.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure to have you here.
To run off.
Where can people find you? What's your Instagram handle, man?
Well, after that whole chat of like,
yeah.
Find me at Shona_Vertue. Yes, you can find me on Instagram. Shona_Vertue.
Great. Like T said, a great model for what someone who is, for what an influencer could be.
Thank you.
Someone who's trying to ride that wave and do it in a responsible and powerful way.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Shona.
To have you back for another chat.
Yes, part 2.
Do it soon.
Let's do it.
Yay.
Thanks, fam. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
If you enjoyed that episode, take a screenshot of it, post about it, tag Shona, tag us at Jungle Brothers Movement, and share it with someone who might like to listen to it, because that's how you support the show and that's what enables us to keep doing the thing. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Thank you.